All right, this is for the individual project. This is for the recording module. Since my recording module is a singleton, this is going to kind of look weird as a UML, but I have Ramen and Scene. They talk to both a random generator attorney and the recording module attorney, and those attorneys talk to the random generator and the recording module, and then what the users talk to is specifically the randomizer tool and the recording tool. And then the recording module, I got this set up now that it has a command pattern. So there's no ifs inside of it when you go through. And then if you're trying to record a scene, does everything through the command for save. If you're trying to load it, it goes through load. And then if nothing's going on, if you have it set to none, it's just going to do nothing. Inside my user start scene, you can choose what type of enum it is. So load, none, or record. And for sakes, if you type in something random here and you want it to load this file name, it's going to give you an error. And it has to find something in there with the correct file name or it's not going to do anything. So you can import from here. But for record, you don't have to have anything inside the recorded file name because the recorded file name looks for a specific file that you're trying to load. So if I go and set this and start playing it like this, everything will be fine because it does not need that since it's recording. Go through here and see we can still move around and everything will be fine. Get out of here. And all the recordings are put in here. So the top part right here is the recording seed from my recording generator. And this says how many frames there are. And then, well, not how many frames there are, I'm sorry. This is the frame that has the first input and then how many inputs are in that one. So then 34 had another one, there was one in it, it was 87. So these are all with the W key being 87. So then if we go and copy this over and put this in here and load it again, once again this will work. And this is what you've already seen before. And then we're going to go into the recording module after this and you can see it actually working how it's supposed to. There. Now, so inside, if we go through here, in my recording module, I have uh, two sets. I have timelines and I have frames. So basically what these are is frames is a list of Azul keys. And then we have a frame container to know exactly what frame it is, what number, frame number. And then we have timeline, which is a number of frame containers. So that means that when we're going through, once we set all the commands and stuff, that when you go and load a frame, you go and put everything on the current frame and you're pushing everything out. And this right here, basically what it does is, what it means by hardware scan is it goes and makes the computer think that you're actually using your keyboard and clicking down specific keys. And then when it picks up that key, it goes and turns into a word that the computer knows, and then it sets it into the IP, and it'll erase that frame, and it'll send that input. So then if I click W and it's in my text file, it sends that W over, we convert into a word that can be read by this input, and then I'll send it off. And at the end of every frame, you have to go and stop all these. So that's why I keep my input and I delete it. So efficiency wise, it's bad because I have to go and create a new input and I have to go and delete it every single time. Because if I don't do that, because it's a dynamic array, so I don't know how many keys are going to be. And I don't want to go and make a huge amount and never use it. So I have to go and make a new one and delete it every single time. So first, go back really quick and go to Ramen. Ramen, the random generator creates a seed right here. And this is basically just going and whatever the time is, and you get the seed for it. And then from there, you can set the seed. This is setting the seed from the file so it reads it in. You can go and get the random seed. This is for when you're putting it into the text file. And then these functions specifically are for randomizing for the user so then they can use this to use the correct seed, which is used by the randomizer tool, which is all set up right here, which goes to the randomizer attorney. The debugging tool is good. I actually used it a couple of times when I was doing stuff with terrain, because especially with the edge case for a couple of videos before, when I was trying to find why my edge case was happening when I was going over the edge, I was actually just repeating it over and over again, so then I could collect data, which that was really nice to do, that I didn't have to do anything with it and repeat the same thing. Um, but in general, with what we had right now, I didn't find as big of a use for it as I wanted to. There's still some things that are wrong with it, like I didn't get the arrow keys to work. Um, Biggest thing is time wise, I wasn't able to do it. That's the same thing with my random number generator. Um, Even though I'm going between min and max, if my min is a negative number, it still gives me a lot of positives instead, which I wish I had more time to change. There's so like weird things that happens is like shifts doesn't work and my arrow keys don't work, but everything else works. So it's just a value number that I have to go and scavenge through and find. Um, and then a lot of my when I make a random generator and use numbers for it, it gives me a lot of positive numbers. So that's why too, if I go and load a scene, a lot of things seem like it's in the uh, northeast of me over here, and that's because it's all spawning over there. So I'm gonna let this play really quick, and then if I can go and look around, a lot of things are being spawned northeast, like these buildings aren't, but then like the players that are in here were. My biggest thing is I thought way too big. I I would basically, you and I both talked about this, that I ended up trying to make something that was game oriented, not engine oriented. Um, but once I got on drag making something engine oriented, this actually worked out really well. I just wish my research was actually fine. I was happy with my research because I was able to figure out how to use inputs through the keyboard to get those read, and it still reads through my uh, key manager just fine. But everything else works really well. The commands work really great. When I go and like, so what I want to save a frame, save current frame. Like save a current frame, all I have to do, since everything's a list now, is just throw it into the timeline to save. So I have a list that I just keep on changing to that and like throwing it in there, which means it's being copied over, which also is not good because this is just a big list of frames once it's done. So loading in the beginning and then clearing it out at the end is not very good, but at least it's in the beginning and end and not while it's playing. And I only do it through one scene, so I can't do it through multiple scenes, which I wish I could do. So like if I started on my city scene, I could go to my plane seed and it would still carry through, but it doesn't do that since it's at the scene level. I wish I could bring it up more into at least the scene manager level, so then I could use it through multiple scenes and record all that data without having to touch the keyboard, so I could just watch and see what happens instead of going through. Because like if you're playing something, then a crash happens, you don't know why. You could go and just have that whole thing recorded and just play through it again instead of having to go and hopefully go to that scene and try and get it to go again while you're recording. Um, for my documents, I have a demo for recording. So it tells you how to start recording and what to do for it. And until it talks about even using the randomizer tool. So here's all the stuff for the randomizer tool. And what it's being called and how you use it. So like I even have little snippets of like how it's being used. And then for the recording tool, I also have the same stuff. So it talks about how it's being used and what you're using it for. And then I also will have a self-reflection in Perforce.